I want to share with you something personal that I experienced last week. I was in Russia, in a city called Rostov, and I met a man named Yuri, who had moved from Israel to Russia. That means he was born in Russia, he'd made Aliyah to Israel, and then he moved back to Russia. And as I was walking around town with the local rabbi, we went to visit this man, Yuri, and we went to his apartment, which was a communal apartment. In communist times, the communists built these apartment buildings where they'd have one shared kitchen, one shared bathroom, and then 5 or 6 bedrooms, and every family in the apartment got their own bedroom, but they would share the kitchen and dining room. So there were many families in each apartment. And this man had moved to Israel, and then he moved back to Russia. And the rabbi asked him, Yuri, why did you move back to Russia? And the man shared a story that I simply could not forget. The man said that when my grandparents lived in this apartment before the war, before the Second World War, they were sharing the apartment with a whole bunch of other people. There was a room nearby that was occupied by a young woman, and this young woman started dating a Nazi Gestapo officer. And basically, the Jews in the neighborhood realized the bad times were coming, and most of them tried to escape. He said, but my grandparents, they lived in this building, and they were too old to escape, so they stayed. And what ended up happening was that the girl who was dating the Nazi turned in her Jewish neighbors, including this man's grandparents, and they were taken to be killed. Now, the way it works is that these apartments were passed on from generation to generation, and people who have a room in the apartment have priority when it comes to inheriting the apartment. That means that if someone in the apartment building, that specific apartment, dies, the other roommates have priority in inheritance. And this man was living in Russia, but he moved to Israel, and one day it dawned on him that when he passed away, because he had no children, his apartment might be inherited by the grandchildren of the woman who was dating this Nazi, by the grandchildren of the Nazi who had killed his grandparents. And this man left Israel, and he moved back to Russia to stay in that apartment. And I was there, and he looked in my eyes and he said, I will never be able to face my parents if this apartment ends up in the hands of the grandchildren of the Nazi that killed them. And that is why I moved from Russia back to Israel. So once again, I don't know that there's any specific mitzvah of moving away from Israel and back to Russia to save an apartment from falling into the hands of the grandchildren of Nazis. But I do know is that the dedication and the hardship which this man is going through so that he can face his parents and his grandparents is something very special. And just like in the time of the Baal Shem Tov, this other man was giving all he had to make sure that if one day he got burnt at the stake, he would burn forever. So once again, it's not only about the specific mitzvahs that we do and the specific learning that we do and the good deeds. It's also about the passion and the feeling that we have for serving God. Be well. We're looking forward to seeing you all very soon on Wednesday night on Zoom. Have a great day.